Hey guys and gals, Nary here from Drake Wing Gaming, somebody me on Twitter, The Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you another Let's Play episode of Lyre. So, let's go ahead and just jump right back into where we left off. Guys, please sit back and enjoy for the next 18 minutes to entertain you, and let's jump right in. Alarm Chan, you are up, and let's go. Alrighty. There's no signs of scratches or dents, though. Everything about it seems flawless. The fact that there's no mark signifying the maker is annoying. However, there's one thing that's odd about this dagger that always bothered Lyall. These blades were typically used along with a thrusting sword such as a rapier or an estoc. A secondary weapon used to gain an edge on your opponent. Your typical dagger would be much better for assassinating someone. This dagger would still get the job done, though. The blade is sharp enough to cut a hair straight down the center, and the tip is very pointed. Just looking at it is enough to make Lyall nervous, but holding it sends an ominous chill up his back and around his shoulders. The castle blacksmith has already had a look at it, and he said it's a standard northern dagger that you could get from any smith in Edan or Lyre. Lyall doesn't trust his judgment, though. The man used to be very involved in smithing and knew a lot about the different types of blades and forges they came from. But he hasn't been in that field lately. Now he just forges weapons and armor specifically for the castle guard along with the royal guard. Wise beyond his years, but rusty in his knowledge. Lyall knows of one man who might know the origin of this blade. Edan. If Edan can figure out where the blade might have come from and bring it before the court, it could turn the tides of the trial entirely. Edan can confirm that Leuven didn't buy a single weapon when he was in his forge. It's not solid proof, but it's something. Lyall takes the blade and gently puts it into a small satchel. Let's hope you can figure this out, Edan. As he makes his way to the door, it opens wide and fast, the door clunking into the wall behind it. Coincidentally, Bjorn stands in the doorway, his large body taking up the most of the frame. He has an annoyed grimace plastered on his muzzle. Read? He looks around the room with a confused look on his face. Who were you just talking to? Lyall tucks the satchel more behind his back and underneath his cape as he backs up a bit. Nobody. I was thinking out loud. Bjorn, knowing about what Lyall plans to do, would certainly cause some trouble. Trouble he'd rather not have to deal with. Having to explain to someone like Adrius that he wants to take the murder weapon is as undesirable as a confrontation with the killer themselves. What? Were you looking over evidence or something? Bjorn glances at the table with disinterest. Yeah, just looking. Trying to piece everything together. All by yourself? The old bear stands up straight, his towering figure rising up above Lyall's by a good distance. Yes, is there something wrong with that? The tone of annoyance in Lyall's voice slips out on the last few words. You're allowed to do that? Of course I am! Don't forget, as captain of the Royal Guard, I still have partial supervision over this investigation and the trial. Bjorn grunts and lets out a chuckle, his frown still sitting upon his lips. It doesn't matter. I was just leaving. Lyall goes to step around him, but he speaks up. You shouldn't have it. Lyall stops in his tracks, his heartbeat rising slightly. What? You shouldn't have supervision over this. Everyone knows it. Everyone's thinking about it. Even you should understand that it's wrong. Lyall's shocked face is nothing compared to the sight of his hackles rising. That's not for you to decide. It's not wrong in the slightest. Someone has to support the innocent man locked in that cell. Lyall continues to walk past him and grabs the doorknob. I won't stand for this disrespect, Sir Bjorn. I'm leaving. Lyall doesn't wait for Bjorn to retort as the door closes behind him. The guard... God. Excuse me. The guards outside the door are as still as statues, and Lyall walks in the opposite direction down the stairs. Oh my god, Good lord. Oh god, I got some air caught in my throat. Oh man. Okay. Bjorn's constant disrespect of Lyall is annoying, but as long as he does what he's told and doesn't get in his way, he could honestly care less. It's weird being a captain to an old beast like that, but that's just the way things are. Age isn't a large factor in the capabilities to lead. Maybe he'll realize that someday. Lyall steps off the bottom of the stairs and reaches the door to the passage which leads to the village. He looks around before opening the door. From what he can tell, nobody was following him. He takes out his keys, unlocking the door swiftly and swinging it open. Cold air blows out from the doorway into his face. He steps down the spiral staircase, closing the door behind him and locking it. The stairs are wet with cold water, and it makes him wish he had a pair of those shoes Leuven has to wear. They probably wouldn't fit on his feet, though. Descending down the stairs, he reaches the bottom and begins to carefully make his way through the tunnel. Each step he takes becomes colder and colder, some of the puddles beneath him reacting to the movement, glowing bright blue like they always do. Once he reaches the trap door at the end, he unlocks it and pushes it up as far as his arms let him. Ah! Sorry. He lifts himself up the stairs and tries to let his eyes adjust to the light. Ooh. It's snowing out right now, but each snowflake quickly melts before it can even touch the ground. Other than a thin layer of snow here and there, the Vitality Fire lanterns seem to be doing their job as always. He steps out of the small alley and into the village square. It's not as busy as it usually is, but people are still going about their day. For an obvious reason, everything feels more depressing now. It may just be his mood, though. There's a few people walking around and shopping for stuff. A couple of kids are playing by the fountain, one of them flipping a few coins into the water. John's outside the bakery adding logs to the stove. Always a good, hard-working lad. The logs look like small branches when he grabs them. Lyall's ears prick up at the familiar sound of metal striking an anvil from within Edan's forge. Edan must have been working since dawn, because from the sound of it, every contraption and furnace in his forge is running. He secures the satchel at his side and lifts the tarp in the doorway, his ears brushing at it as he ducks through the arch. The entire forge is suffocated in dry, hot air. Edan is bent over, poking at the inside of the furnace, his body shining with sweat. His apron is completely dirty, and all sorts of tools are thrown about the ground. He stands up and turns around, jumping a bit at the sight of Lyall. Lyall? Ah, quiet as always, I see. Lyall rubs the back of his head while looking down at the ground. I'm not trying to be. Yeah, sure. Holler my name next time. He sets down a fire poker and turns back around, wiping his paws on it with a rag. How you been? A mess. Yeah, I bet. A long pause floats through the air, but before Lyall can get to the point, Edan speaks up again. That's an awful thing to happen. I can only imagine how it's been affecting you. As much of a shock as it was, life still goes on for us folk outside the castle. Though I can't help but feel a little depressed lately. He bites his lip while looking at his anvil, the top of it scratched and busted all over. I also heard about who they said did it. A human fella that you've been following around. What was his name again? Leuven. Trust me, he didn't do it. Edan shrugs his shoulders. I hope he didn't. He seemed nice. But enough about that. What can I do for you? Don't tell me winter's dull again. You can't have done that much training. No, it's not that. I wanted to ask you a few questions. About what? Lyall pulls the satchel around to his front and lifts the flap, revealing the handle of the blade. He carefully pulls it out and places it on top of the anvil. I need you to tell me everything you can about this blade. Edan cocks an eyebrow at the dagger and rubs his chin. I thought you didn't like fancy daggers, big guy. What exactly did you want to know about it? Where's it from? What's it made of? Do you recognize the maker? Anything that could help me clear Leuven's name. Edan picks up the knife gently and examines it. Is this the blade that... It is. A slight grimace appears on his face. Turning it around in his paws, he studies it with extra care, trying to look at every detail. What about that castle blacksmith? Didn't have anything to say about this? Yeah, but I don't even know why they consulted him in the first place. He only works on special orders, and he's been out of the trade for decades. Lyall wrings his paws, looking at Edan with concern. On this matter, I trust your judgment more than anyone's. Edan holds the dagger closer to the light from the furnace and runs a claw across the guard. He then rubs one of his paw pads along the pommel. What did the old man say? He said it was a regular blade. Could be purchased from any smith in Edan or Lyre. He's wrong. It's a very easy mistake to make, though. Lyall leans forward, placing his paws on the anvil and resting his weight on it. I knew it! To anyone else, this would look like a simple rondel dagger. A rapier's best friend. He points the sharp tip and holds it in a standard grip. That's the case with this one. But it's not that simple of a blade. Although thrust and swords became a widely used weapon in northern Edan, they were created in Lyre. Both kingdoms had many knights and soldiers trained in the art of dueling with such blades. The thing is, ever since trade between the three kingdoms was expertly established, so were ideas. He places the blade back on the anvil. The fires of the forge cast a warm glow upon the blade. Ideas were shared and techniques learned. Eventually, all sorts of weapons were being forged all around Tigran. Weapons considered to be foreign were rare and sought after in their homelands, and a dagger like this was definitely forged in Driss. He nudges the blade across the anvil in Lyall's direction as he says this. Really? I've seen ones like it before on the few trips I've taken to Driss. The wavy blade is something you could go off of, but here's the main reason. He points to the garden pommel. This isn't gold. It's not? That there is pure arenamite. It's a somewhat rare metal that's similar to gold in quality. Although as rare as Vekrite, and it's found primarily in the south. Weighs less and it's stronger. He picks it up and holds it out to Lyall. This blade is from Driss. Kadaj. Sorry, what? Nothing. Lyall takes the blade from him and gently places it back in his satchel. Thank you for your help, Edan. It's no problem at all. I won't even charge you for my time. Very funny. I'll be seeing you, hopefully. Lyall turns to leave, but Edan stops him. Hey, Lyall? Yes? I heard other things about that Leuven fella. Lyall turns around and leans against the wall behind him. Edan? I heard that you're at it again. That's my business. I know, just... It seems like it's happening all over again. Everyone's forming mean opinions about it. Lyall looks up at the ceiling and sighs. Listen to me for a moment, will ya? I know that they made it difficult for us to be together. Whoa. Huh, okay, I didn't know that. Damn, okay. I know that they spread horrible rumors, which were quickly silenced and not forgotten, but... Lyall starts to feel hot in the face, and he slumps into himself. I saw the way he looks at you. His eyes tell the truth. Lyall's blush becomes more and more visible as he continues. Promise me something. What? Don't let them do that again. Lyall stands up straight and looks him in the eyes. I won't, Edan. Good. If there's anything else I can do to help, let me know. I'm still your friend. No matter how much you distance yourself from everyone. Lyall walks over to the doorway and Edan lifts the tarp to the side. He rubs the back of his head and looks up at Edan with a concerned and embarrassed gaze. Thank you, Edan. I'm sorry. No worries. They step outside into the chilly air and Edan basks in it, trying to cool off. This visit was very productive, a bit too productive in some areas. I'm honestly glad I was able to help. Hopefully everything gets resolved. One can only hope at this point. I should really stop being a stranger, though. I'll come visit you again soon if things go well. Lyall takes a few steps toward the alley while looking at Edan. Before he can go any further, he crashes into something which causes him to stumble back slightly. Watch your step, Captain. As Lyall regains his footing, he notices that Bjorn has slipped the satchel off of his person and is now opening the flap. When he looks back up, what little subtlety he had in his eyes is now completely gone. I knew it! Sneaking off with pieces of evidence as if you own the bloody investigation. Lyall reaches forward, taking the satchel from Bjorn, who basically lets him have it. I was not sneaking! What are you doing lurking in the alley behind my forge? Following this reckless fool. Bjorn gestures to Lyall with his large paw, not taking his eyes off him for a moment. Lyall's face becomes flushed as he grips the satchel at his side. You're coming with me! Lyall goes to walk past him. We'll speak about this later. Ow! Before he can finish his sentence, Bjorn grabs him by the shoulders and slams him up against the wall. His head hits the wall behind him, and before he can recover, there's another painful blow to his face. Ow! He's then shoved back toward the end of the alley, stumbling slightly. Lyall! Stay out of this, Edan! Bjorn had punched him directly in the nose, his fist splattered with blood. Lyall could already taste it in his mouth, the potent metallic flavor running across his tongue. You bastard! Have you lost your mind? I can ask the same of you, boy. You think you're completely absolved of all punishment just because you're the captain. It makes me sick. Bjorn already has his paw firmly placed on the grip of his sword. Lyall feels a rage grow inside of him that he hadn't felt in a long time. He slowly raises his arm up behind him and grips the handle of his own blade. You would draw steel on me? You've been meddling with this investigation for far too long. Let your emotions get in the way of every decision you make, and it's going to bring this entire trial into chaos. That's absurd. If anything, that's what I'm trying to prevent, you brute. It's true, Uncle. Oh, Uncle, damn. Shut your trap! Edan looks like he's about to say something, but stops himself. Looks over at Lyall, a worried look filling his eyes. What do you plan to do? Bjorn taps his chin lightly while glaring at Lyall. Teaching you a lesson might be good. You've been a bad dog. Honestly, I think it might be just if I killed the Iranian bastard. Then you can go back to thinking with your brain instead of that thing between your legs, like a good captain. Hearing him say that triggers something within Lyall, and he's only felt on a few occasions. The purest kind of rage. His body feels like a fire was lit inside of it, flowing through his veins and boiling his blood. And he was only trying to... Bjorn whirls around and yells at Edan. Stay out of this, boy! I've already warned you once! Lyall takes this chance and draws his sword, the blade sliding out of the leather sheath with ease. He dashes back while doing this to put some distance between him and Bjorn. Oh, damn. Once his footing is secured, he lowers the sword in front of his body and assumes a plow guard. If there's going to be a fight, he's going to defend himself. And since it's Bjorn, there's going to be a fight. Bjorn has already turned his gaze back to Lyall and smirks a sinister grin. Looks like you're the one drawing steel. I'll go get help! Edan runs off in the direction of the castle. You plan to hurt me with that pretty thing? I only mean to defend myself. Bjorn reaches behind his shoulder and drags the heavy sword off of his back. The blade glistens in the light and is twice the size of Lyall's own sword. You're coming with me one way or another. I'd like to see that happen. You won't be dealing out your own sick idea of justice this time. Bjorn rushes forward, sword raised and ready to be brought down upon him. Lyall steadies himself and prepares for the hit. Bjorn brings the heavy hunk of metal down upon Lyall's own blade, but he swiftly parries it and dodges to the side. The blade slams into the ground with a mighty clank, sparking against the bricks. Lyall's Vekrite sword rings throughout the air as he swings it back around away from Bjorn. You know, you've never commanded respect. You aren't fit to be captain. Lyall points his blade in Bjorn's direction, defending himself against the next blow. I never wanted your respect. I never needed it. I demand your loyalty. The same loyalty we all show to this kingdom. Bjorn scoffs at him, pacing around the wolf with a calm yet savage look in his eyes. Loyalty? What good has it done you? You've been a slave to loyalty your whole life. A small crowd has started to form just outside the alley. Nobody dares to get closer, though. Bjorn takes his chance to swing at Lyall again. This time Lyall brings a sword in front of him, grabbing the end of it with his gloved paw and bracing it against the flat of his blade. Bjorn's sword clashes against Lyall, sending sparks all over the ladder, throwing him slightly off balance before sending his weight back into the blade and throwing Bjorn's sword to the side of him. Bjorn staggers back and grips his weapon tighter. King Rainer's loyal dog. Always ready to do whatever his masters ask of him. Lyall feels a deep, hot feeling swelling inside of him. The feeling only grows stronger with each second that passes. He quickly rushes forward, throwing a flurry of blows at the bear, which he barely manages to block. To an outsider, he's a blur. He's a blue and white blur. Thrashing at his opponent with precise strikes, Bjorn stumbles and almost falls to his knees before swinging his blade horizontally, forcing Lyall to back off. Through panting breaths, he mocks him again. Yes, you were loyal, but your loyalty ended where the benefits stopped. Our new king won't be as forgiving of the little stunts you've been pulling. Damn. Lyall rushes forward and swings his sword against Bjorn's with a heavy clash. Sparks fly throughout the air as their blades drag along each other with heavy screeching noise. You don't know what you're talking about. Trust me, I do. You see, my loyalty ended in a similar way. Each of them positioned their swords at different angles, one opponent trying to get the advantage over the other. When Sir Runar died, you were named his successor. I knew the kingdom was going to shit, so I started pulling stunts of my own, and they called me undisciplined for it. Lyall brings his leg up and kicks into Bjorn as hard as he can, forcing him back. You're a traitorous little bastard! I'll have that human strung up if it's the last thing I do, and you're going to watch. Hearing this causes Lyall to enter a rage that he's never felt before, savage and wild, but calm and collected all at the same time. He needs to completely visualize his objective. Killing him isn't the goal here. He has to subdue him somehow. Wrestling him into a tough position is the only way to ensure no blood is spilled on his part. However, it presents a problem. Lyall is the superior duelist by far, but if past training has shown anything, Bjorn should be the better grappler. Switching to this form of fighting gives Bjorn an advantage, but it's the best way to show he was acting in self-defense. No, fuck you, Alarm Chan. Not yet, not yet. He has a chance. Lyall lets out a low growl before lunging at Bjorn, tackling him to the ground. At this moment, he truly looks like a wild animal as he tosses Bjorn's sword to the side with a single swing of his own. The blade clatters to the ground and Lyall mounts the bear, digging his claws into his wrists with all of his strength, pinning him down. He leans in, pressing harder into Bjorn's wrists, baring his teeth. Like hell you will! All three kingdoms will be in the ground before I let you do that. Bjorn manages to wrench one of his arms out from underneath Lyall's paw, but Lyall already anticipated this. He quickly kicks his feet from the ground and twists around, still holding onto one of Bjorn's arms. The bear reaches around to grab one of Lyall's legs, but it's already too late. Lyall has him locked in a vicious armbar. He locks his legs around Bjorn's arm at the shoulder and pulls the appendage as hard as he can. If you think I'll let you get away with this, you're wrong! Audible grunts can be heard from the large bear, but Lyall doesn't let up. He needs to figure out his next move quickly. Before he can execute anything, Bjorn is already back on the offensive. The bear slowly lifts his legs around the side of Lyall and positions himself under the wolf's foot. It's a blessing we were both taught by the same man. He taught me everything I need to know to take you down. Before Bjorn can escape the grip, Lyall doubles down and pins the bear's head to the ground harder, while tightening his hold on Bjorn's arm. Yield! In what feels like a split second, Lyall's body is thrown back to the ground, as Bjorn twists around and mounts Lyall. Through it all, Lyall's legs are still locked around the bear's body, and they've been forced down to wrapping around Bjorn's waist. Lyall's armor scrapes against the ground, and his cape rips as he slid back toward the wall behind him. I'm like, that bear is strong. He's gonna be able to lift you. The bear looks down at him with a sick and amused expression. I don't! Ow. Bjorn then lays a heavy punch into Lyall's face. This is followed by several more blows. Lyall manages to block a few of them, but after a while it becomes harder. Every blow elicits a low growl from the bear. With each punch, the noise around him becomes more and more muffled. Then they stop. Thick blood feels like it's drowning the insides of his mouth as he sits there panting. Bjorn gets off of him, and then he's free to catch his breath. His eyes feel swollen. He can't see out of them. He can still hear, but he's slowly fading. I told you, you're coming with... The last thing he hears The last thing his ears pick up is a large bear coughing and wheezing. He's breathing heavily and there's a sound of footsteps rushing to both of them. The last thing he feels is something heavy falling on top of him. This knocks the wind out of him and he slowly loses consciousness. Cold snowflakes land on the top of his almost numb nose. The last thing he thinks is whether Leuven's going to be safe. Damn it! Oh my god, really? Ah! Shit! Come on now! Oh, was that quick already? He says it's going to be released very soon. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. Okay, alright. Oh my god, what a fight! Ah, real, man. That was nuts. That was nuts. Alright. Alright, it looks like someone knocked Bjorn out right on top of Lyall. It's the only thing I can think of. Alright, y'all. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Leave a super thanks or a tip if you can. It always helps. Until the next video, I love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!